Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of The Deep Thought. Or so we think it is. I'm just kidding. Hey guys, welcome to my channel, and let's jump into today's topic. And today's topic is going to be on psychology. And it's actually going to be on psychological abuse and manipulation, and how we use it and abuse it in the world today, and how that's created a society of corruption and hate and all these nasty things, that we all see every day. So I'd like to start off with just bringing forward the fundamentals of psychological abuse and manipulation, and go through it. I mean, obviously everybody understands kind of like a basic concept of what psychological abuse is. It's, when you just manipulate somebody into feeling horrible about themselves for doing something. That's psychological abuse. And yes, people do it every day to their children to make them feel bad for things that they didn't even know that they were supposed to not do in the first place. That's a whole nother topic, but that's the best example I can think of at the moment. So, when it comes to psychological abuse and manipulation, we like to make people feel horrible about things that they did by, somehow tricking them and their psyche into thinking that they've done something wrong or horrible in the eyes of all of humanity. And that's about the gist of it. We like to go around pointing fingers at people, essentially, and making them feel bad about the things that they do because we don't believe what they did was right or correct. So, when we as people talk to one another, there's usually always a form of psychological manipulation behind the interactions that we have. You're probably thinking right now that there's probably one going on right here, and to an extent, yeah, there kind of is. I'm trying to tell you, I'm trying to explain to you how psychological abuse works, and for you to see it for yourself and understand that, psychological abuse and manipulation aren't things that are okay, but we do them, and we do them all the time. We do them to the people that we love and care about. We do it to the people that we absolutely despise and hate. Absolutely. But it goes both ways. People do it to you, and you do it to them. So, when it comes to psychological manipulation or abuse, essentially all we're doing is just making other people feel bad because we want them to feel bad. We want them to feel hurt for whatever it is that they may have done or said, or any of the above, anything else. So, to that extent, to that understanding that we like to hurt other people by manipulating them, making them feel bad, making them feel horrible about themselves, let's talk about, first off, how men and women do it to one another, and then we'll get into the whole idea of how it impacts society. So let's start off with men. One, because I'm a man and I've done it. Everyone's done it. Don't say you haven't done it, or else we'll know you're lying. But let's start off with men. So, men like to use psychological abuse. Not very well. Let me put it out this way. We don't know how to use it very well. And for the ones that do, are extraordinarily dangerous. Very, very dangerous. But most of the time, most men don't actually know how to psychologically manipulate or abuse somebody very well, or else, the person wouldn't really know that they were being abused. So when it comes to men, what we like to do most of the time is, throw things in the face of others, just blatantly throwing it out right back at them, just like they dished it out to us. We're not very good at psychological manipulation. The ones that are honestly a danger to themselves more than they are to anybody else around them. But when it comes to men, we like to use the psychological game and the psychological abuse game, of course, none other than to our own gain, our own advantage. And we do it in a sloppy way. We do it in a way where we want to make other people feel bad, and most of the time that's how it goes. A little insight into how I've done it. I've used it to the extent where I have taken events of people and just groups of people, not just a single person. I'm talking about groups, and kind of altered their opinions of something or someone at some point. And essentially, you do that enough, and you'll get an entire group or a pact to think the same way. So I've done it on a large scale. I've done it on a much smaller scale as well. But I will say this: it never made me feel good when I did it. When I had done it, I knew I was doing something horrible. I was doing something evil, and it is evil. It's sinister. It's very sinister. When we go out of our way to manipulate people, it is a very sinister action on our behalf. So, that being said, when it comes down to it, the psychological abuse or psychological manipulation from the man's side, it usually isn't very creative. Sometimes it can be very methodical. Some men are extraordinarily methodical with their actions, with their manipulation. And they make the world a much worse place. It's not very nice because of them. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying that, I've gotten rid of my tendencies to do that. No, I still do it every once in a while. It's horrible. But the thing is, I've acknowledged it. I know that it exists, and I'm able to recognize it when I am doing it. So now when I do it, or when I'm about to do it, I can actually recognize the fact that I'm about to do it and stop it. But that doesn't make me any better than anybody else, because, we all do it. So, that is from a man's side. We're very forward with it. We're not very good at it. We're extraordinarily stupid with it, because we think that we're getting away with something, and we're not. When it comes to women are, I say men are methodical, women are planners. And when I say this, I'm not saying that women are horrible or worse or anything like that. I'm just saying that you guys actually plan things out a lot better than we do, because we kind of just go on a limb and, just go like right then and there. Whereas women plan, they actually make like plans. All right, so if this person does that, like I know women know how to do it and contort just every situation to their benefit very well. Doesn't go to say that women are somehow better or worse than us, because there are men that are better at it than women. But women take careful steps to do those things, and when they do, it's actually quite fun to see. It really is. Especially when somebody knows how they're like that they're doing it and how they're doing it. It's quite a sight. It's funny, but it's horrible. So anyway, that being said, I don't have the mind of a woman, so I don't necessarily know how women go about the psychological abuse. I'm sure they probably do it a lot less than men do, because they're usually the ones that are being psychologically abused. Not only through their father figures, but through boyfriends, ex-boyfriends, all those things. Even family. So, that being said, let's get into it with the societal norm and how the psychological manipulation game has corrupted our entire society of human beings. Not this isn't specified to a single location here, on the planet. This is everybody, okay? It's not like, hey, this is all what's going on in New Mexico, or hey, this is what's going on over in Arizona. No, this is all over the place. So, when we talk about the psychological abuse in a societal way and how it's impacted the societies that we live in today, we need to look at it from a perspective of understanding. First and foremost, we need to understand why it's happening. And in my own personal opinion, I think the whole charade of psychological manipulation and the whole psychological abuse cycle has been going on because people are afraid. Think about what you do whenever you're in a defensive position, whenever you do something or say something that puts you on the defensive. Like if you say something to somebody and they call you out and call you a liar, you immediately get defensive. And because of that, a feeling of fear overcomes you, whether if it's anger or hatred or anything else underneath that spectrum, you are experiencing fear. So, from my understanding, the whole thing of psychological manipulation and abuse comes from a place of fear. And you fear what you don't understand. There is no better saying than you fear what you don't understand in the English language. There's no better saying than that single one, because I have learned that firsthand just from living here in the States, that people are afraid of what they do not understand. People didn't understand me for quite a while when I was attending school, and people were either afraid of me or intimidated of me, or one thing or another. They just didn't like me because they didn't know me, and they didn't understand me because I was different. That's my experience with that saying, but that's getting off topic, so let's steer right back into it. But understanding that fear is the culprit that brings psychological abuse and manipulation into the world. So now let's talk about how how it impacts everything that happens in the world and everyone. So starting with men and women together in general. Whenever it comes to men and women, we abuse each other because we are always looking to gain something. Right? We're always looking for that step up the ladder because we think that it's going to bring us some sort of momentary relief or a sense of accomplishment and overwhelming sense of, accomplishment. You feel like you're on cloud nine whenever you do something like that for a single moment. Men and women do it for the sole fact that they want a step up. We also do it to show people that we are in charge. Whenever you psychologically manipulate somebody, you can essentially take away their humanity, essentially, because you are making them feel like they are absolutely nothing. A perfect example of this, and I will say this because I know what this is. I've been through this myself. Is being emasculated. When this is one thing. This is one of the ways that the psychological abuse and manipulation from a woman to a man can really harm the world. When a man is emasculated from the actions or words of a woman, we essentially become a shell of a man. It's literally that simple. We do not feel like we are men. We don't feel like we are even a human being. We are lower than the dirt on the ground when we feel emasculated to that point. It's a very horrible feeling. And that, in turn, ends up creating men that feel the way that they do. They feel emasculated. They feel absolutely horrible about it and about themselves. And essentially, they begin to hate not only themselves, but everything in the world around them. And then when put hate together with emasculation, you get a very nasty person. So that's one form of psychological abuse and manipulation that really has been bogging down our entire society as a whole. And let me just say this: the whole, because I know some people are going to come out and say, well, that means you're against women and, you're just against women that are powerful. No, I'm not. More power to women. I'll say this. I'm a little pro-feminist. But there is a certain degree to where I will say that there's a certain degree that a person is allowed to go before they're overstepping their bounds. And I say a person because I'm not generalizing that into a gender. That is a person. Any human being, that it be a man or a woman. So I just want to clarify that because I know people get upset about that. So when it comes down to it, when we feel that way, it only breeds more hatred, and vice versa. So let's go into it from a man to a woman's perspective. When a man does it to a woman, it makes them feel absolutely horrible. Now, I don't know how women feel. I don't know if they feel the same way that men do, the same way that we do when we feel emasculated. But when a woman is psychologically abused, or manipulated, I can only assume that you probably feel just like we do whenever it happens to us. Maybe a little slightly different, because obviously you don't have the whole, you don't have the social pressure that we do as men, but I'm sure there's something else that you guys feel that's just as bad. And I say just as bad because there's, nobody feels more pain than anybody else. We're all in the same field of pain. But when it comes down to it from a man's perspective, when we psychologically abuse a woman or manipulate her, we in turn breed more hate, because women don't like it just as much as we don't like it being done to us. So whenever we do it, they feel hurt, they feel like they're not being treated right, they feel like they're less than a human being because of the way that we've treated them. And that in turn creates a hostile person, a hostile woman that, for all we know, could either drive her to be a much better person, or it could drive her to the point of suicide. And this goes both ways. Because whenever a man feels emasculated, sometimes they'll probably feel like wanting to commit suicide because they don't feel like they're good enough to even exist on this planet and experience the beautiful life that they have available in front of them. So this goes both ways. So as a society, whenever we're going tit for tat, because that's what we're doing, we go tit for tat whenever a woman does it to a man, or a man does it to a woman, whichever gender it happens to, ends up taking it out on, either themselves or just society as a whole. So let's talk about how that has impacted our society and the world itself today. That has essentially created a world of hate and fear, and something that we all like to call the game. The game. Everybody knows about the game. We all talk about it. We all do. Please don't say that you don't, because everybody does. Everybody's done it to a point, to a degree. Everybody's done it, and if not, you are still doing it today. I've talked about the game, and when I talk about the game, it's in reference to the whole thing that we have in society called dating. We have to pretend to be somebody that we're actually not to get the person to like us. Therefore, we trick them into thinking that they like us. Therefore, whenever we turn into the person that they actually don't even know and that they absolutely hate because we've been too afraid to show to them, we get upset at them, right? And that is the best form of manipulation and psychological abuse that we have in today's society. So, we, as a society, have created this game that is very detrimental to our own being, to our own existence, because we believe that we have to come off somehow superior, not only to them but to everybody else. Because we have to be like a peacock. We gotta show you our feathers. This definitely goes out to the men, because you know exactly what men especially know what I'm talking about. When you're flexing your guns, when you're puffing out your chest. I know, because I've done it. And it's a very sick game that we have created in today's world, because all it does is perpetuate hate and fear. And it perpetuates hate and fear by essentially not showing who you are to the person that you are dating or that you are with. because obviously in turn, in the long run, you will turn into the person that you truly are, and then you will resent them for not accepting you because it is so drastic of a change that you personally begin to hate the person that says that they are in love, that you're in love with, and the person that says that they're in love with you. You begin to hate them and essentially despise them for not accepting you for who you truly are, when you know deep down internally you've been playing a game that has absolutely nothing to do with who you truly are. So therefore you've been perpetuating this cycle of fear internally, and it's been leaking out slowly. It's been coming out slowly. Now, we've all done this. This doesn't just go one way. Remember, keep that in mind, please. Men and women both do this. We play this game. So, whenever we play this game, we end up not only hurting ourselves, but we end up hurting each other, because we perpetuate the fact that we don't believe that we can trust anybody, because we don't believe that anybody will be who they truly are with us. We begin to fear for ourselves. We don't believe that people are good. We don't think that people are good at some point, to some degree, because of everything that we've gone through and everything that other people have put us through. Now, as a whole in the world, this has had very dire consequences. We don't like to think that it has, and we don't like to believe that it has, but it has had very dire consequences with us as a species. We've taken it all over the place, into the business world, into the world of love, into our dating world, which is absolutely horrible. It's not a place that should ever come into. But it's all over the place now, and because somebody one day decided to play the psychological abuse game or manipulation game, somebody else got the idea and thought, yeah, you know what, I'm going to do that too. And somebody else had the idea because it happened to them. And we've perpetuated the cycle of fear, because that's where it comes from. It comes from self-defense. And when we defend ourselves, we are in a state of fear. So we've torn our society apart with this game that we like to present, that we have to be something or somebody or better than anybody else in one way or another, which we're not. None of us are better than one another. I'm not better than any one of you, and you're not better than and anybody else. You're not better than anybody else in the world. You are just as good as the next person. But the cycle of fear has perpetuated this psychological abuse and the psychological game for so long that we have implemented it so deep into our core of human beings that it is destroying us and decaying from the inside. Now, as you're watching this right now, I want you to ask yourself, how honest have you been with yourself? How honest have you been with everybody around you, everybody that has ever been in your life? How honest have you been? Now, I'm not saying that to get you to feel bad about yourself, because I haven't been 100% honest with everybody that I've been around myself either. I can't say that I have. I started off the video by saying that I have done these horrible things myself, so I haven't been 100% honest with people. But we know that we haven't been honest. We understand. We know when we look back, we look into ourselves and our actions and everything that we've done up to this point, we know that we have been dishonest not just with other people, but we've been dishonest with ourselves. And we've been playing this game with the world, with the universe, with the very existence of everything on this world, because we're afraid. And you know, that's not your fault. We've been raised in it. We see it everywhere. It is everywhere. It's on social media. It's on the news. It's on everything. And we think that it's okay because it's happening. That's like thinking that if somebody does crack cocaine and that there's an entire nation that does crack cocaine, that it's okay for everybody else to do it. And it's not. And we need to break the cycle of psychological manipulation and abuse, because it has destroyed our society from the inside out. It has caused more pain in the world than we could possibly acknowledge, that we could possibly even know. So we have to start being honest with ourselves and stop playing this game, because the more we play the game, the more we abuse one another psychologically, and it's very devastating. It's very detrimental to our own health, and it's detrimental to somebody else's health. So I just wanted to make this video on psychological abuse, because this is going to actually come around full circle with another video that I'm going to do a little bit later down the road, and we'll see where that goes. So anyway, I hope you guys all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I had a really great one myself. Love Thanksgiving cooking, I really do. But have yourselves a wonderful Friday and a great weekend, and I hope to see you guys again soon. Take care. Bye.